I've always been a seeker, so I've always felt connected to something that I can't quite explain, that I think has to do with where we go when we die. To me, I think um, when we die, we go to a place that feels more like home than here ever really could. Now, I don't preach that because, like, that's just my belief, and I don't, and people don't need to believe what I believe, and I don't think you need to believe that to go back to your home. Like, I don't think it's a thing that you need to like get into. I think it's a place we come from. So I've always kind of felt that for whatever reason, right? I don't know why.
Welcome to Grief, Gratitude, and the Gray in Between podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Rinaldi. This is a space to explore the full spectrum of grief, from the kind that comes with death to the kind that shows up in life's many transitions. Through stories and conversations, we remind each other that we're not alone. Your journey matters, and here we're figuring it out together. Let's dive right in to today's episode. Our guest today is Julie McFadden. She's an RN, and she is also known for being Hospice Nurse Julie on TikTok with over 1.6 million TikTok followers, which it's mind-blowing for me. The fact that her conversations, and I actually checked out that little video of how it was that journey started on TikTok, and I'd love for you to share in just a few minutes of your TikTok journey and how your nieces were the ones to inspire you getting on TikTok. And she is the New York Times bestselling author. Her first book, the Nothing to Fear book, and now we have the Nothing to Fear journal. And so we are excited to have you on the podcast, Julie. Welcome.
Yay! Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I
Thank
am
you.
so happy you're here and we get to talk all things hospice, palliative care, death, preparing for death, and also about your own life. So I like to start off a little bit to get to know you. So before we started recording, I know you live in Los Angeles. Is this where you grew up?
I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania. So I lived there for the first 25 years of my life. Then I moved to Baltimore, Maryland, and then I moved to California almost 15 years ago.
So your hospice nurse experience, really like working as a hospice nurse, started in California then, because it's about that many years that you've been working as a hospice nurse. Is that correct?
I've been working as a hospice nurse for probably 8 or 9 years. I have to figure it out, but around 8 or 9 years, and it's only been in Los Angeles. Yes.
Okay. So when you moved, was it because you had already a job set up, or was it for other reasons? Was it love, family? What was the reason of you moving?
I moved. My sister was here in Los Angeles. I had a bad breakup, so I was a nurse in Baltimore, Maryland, an ICU nurse, and I just took a travel nurse position, meaning like to get me to California as an ICU nurse. And my sister was here, and I basically was just going through a bad breakup and was like, I need to start anew. So I did. Here I am.
So I love that you're sharing this part of the breakup because we're talking about death here and these transitions in life and how do we prepare for them. Do you not feel that breakup is one of these really major griefs that we go through in transitions in life that sometimes are not even validated as much?
Oh my gosh, definitely. I mean, I don't know if at least for me, not every breakup has felt like that. And when as I got older and as I grew more confident with myself, breakups are still hard, but they haven't been as devastating. I think back then it's like I put so much of me, right, into this relationship. I valued it like more than anything, more than even my own desires, right? So to lose that at the time felt so devastating. I had this idea in my head. I was probably 28, 29. I was going to marry this guy. Like, my life was going to quote unquote start, and then it didn't. So, and I put so much of me, I lost myself a lot in that relationship.
Mm.
And so it was very hard, very devastating. But one of the greatest gifts I've ever received, one of the greatest gifts I've ever received was that breakup. And I think now breakups still hurt, but in a more healthy way because I'm more sure of who I am and what I want and need.
Mm. Go further into that part that you just said that it's one of the greatest gifts. Why do you feel that it was one of the greatest gifts?
At least for me, pain pain moves me forward. Like it's really hard for me to stick to things that I know are good for me unless I'm like in a lot of pain and I'm super desperate. So that breakup caused so much pain that I just needed to change. I needed to grow. I needed to seek to figure out like why does this hurt so much? Like what do I need more of to help me? And it really just moved me forward in like this search of like who I am and how to self-soothe, right? Because like it hurt really bad, and like this person in my life that I was using them to like not feel bad, right? But then they were no longer in my life. So how can I self-soothe? Like what do I need to take care of myself? Like how can I trust that I'm going to be okay even if I'm not with this person, even if my life doesn't look like it's supposed to look? And learning those things like in the darkness, I guess, like really helped me see that there is light. I am being guided. I am okay, with or without someone. And I never would have learned that if I did not go through that pain.
Yes, thank you, and thanks for going down that route. You probably didn't expect me asking you
Oh, I
about your
love it.
breakup and this and the how it can relate to grief, but when we've had these type of emotions, we sometimes think that we've only gone through grief if somebody's died, and we don't realize we go through grief every day pretty much. There's every day there's something that maybe didn't go as we thought, and we can experience grief. And something I even thought the other day, it's like that the moment we're even born, it's already a grief. We've been in this comfy, cozy little place, and then all of a sudden, ta-dun, here's your new home. It's like, what? It's like
Right.
transitioning, right? It's like it's a new experience for this little baby who was comfortable, and this is all they knew. And the same with relationships, the same when we're preparing to die. And there's something that you mention in the journal that death is not what's scary. Let me see if I have the word. It was not that death is what is scary. It's fear is the one that really is the one that ends up affecting how it is we die. Right. So the same with this. Any transition, it's really that fear of that transition that can be the one that catalyzes so much emotion.
Yeah, the unknown. Like the unknown we can fill with so much scariness if we choose to, right? If we don't know. And I mean, and death is the ultimate unknown, right? But even in the death of a relationship, the death of a job, the death of what you thought your life would be, um when there's that void, it's easy to like fill it with fears, with the worst possible outcome, or what about, and that's just a survival thing that we have naturally as humans. But like can we work on in the day that we're in on a daily basis believing that um like believing that we're being guided, believing that there is something to be learned here. Now, and believing that it's okay to feel really scary. It's okay to feel fear. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel uncomfortable emotions too. I think that's a big thing is like we don't want to feel uncomfortable. And if we do, what's the problem? How do we fix it so I don't have to feel this anymore? You know?
Yes, yes. We're in a fix-it culture in
Oh my
general,
God,
like, it's
yes.
like we cannot not yeah, and even as parents or, like, as adults when you're navigating kids going through something, right away, you're trying to fix the boo-boo, fix this, like, "Oh, no, yeah, oh, don't cry, it's okay, that was not that big a deal, da, 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 da," constantly covering up our emotions since we're little, because the rest of the people are uncomfortable with those emotions, you know, when you're not the one going
Exactly.
through that, somebody right? And then you cover it up because you don't want to make others feel uncomfortable, right?
Yes, because I was just thinking about this breakup. What it did to me was there was nothing that would make me, quote unquote, feel better. I just wanted to feel better, and nothing was making me feel better. And this was back, which is a whole nother story. This is back when I was drinking and using drugs and stuff. So, like, even that stuff was like not giving me relief. Right. And I think there's something that cracks you open when, like, you just have to exist in this feeling that is so uncomfortable. And grief does that to you, no matter no matter why you're feeling the grief, right? And there's something that I think is like life changing because of that. Mostly in a good way, whether you see it at the time, but I think it's like when there's nothing you can do to feel better, you just have to feel it. Oh,
Feel it.
there's
And there's a choice in that pit of where you're at in your in your misery in that moment. There really is a choice as to how it is you wish to come out of that.
yeah.
You know, you have choices in the actions that you do that can help in that process. Okay, you said a lot about your own journey there regarding even having been in alcohol and drugs. So take us into the journey of what led you to be a nurse and then what led you into the path of hospice care. How was that? You said you were a traveling nurse. So I want to know it all. How did Julie become a nurse?
Okay, Julie, I've been a nurse for 16, probably almost 17 years now. When I originally became a nurse, I was 23. I had a degree in psychology. I was working in a mental health hospital, like running groups and things like that, thinking I was going to become a therapist. And a few things happened on that unit with patients, like medically. And I remember seeing nurses like running to the emergency, and me like running away from the emergency and being like, oh, like I can't. It was just too much. And I remember thinking like, oh wow, that's so cool that there's like people that like run towards emergencies and like know what to do. And then I was young and impressionable, and my best friend was in an accelerated nursing program where you can get your 4-year degree, your bachelor's degree, like your BSN, it's called, in nursing in 3 semesters if you already have a 4-year degree. Okay. So I was like, maybe I'll do that. I don't really want to go back to school again for another 4-year degree, but if I could get a 4-year degree in 3 semesters and my bestie's doing it, so it was a little bit of like because things in my life happened, but it was a lot of like I was young and didn't know what I really wanted to do, and my best friend was doing it. And then once I got into nursing school, I loved it. I loved it. I didn't realize how much I loved science, how much I loved biology, how much I loved pathophysiology. I loved it. I was like eating it up. I loved it. And I could not wait to be a nurse. I was like, this was what I've been meaning to do. I can't believe it. So I became a nurse, which was like this ultimate, I could not believe. It just felt so hard that it really was this thing of like, I've never worked so hard in my life at something. It was so hard. And then when I passed my NCLEX, which is the test that nurses take, and like you just feel every nurse is like, I'm never gonna pass. Like it's just so traumatizing. And then when I remember seeing Julie McFadden RN, and I was like, I did it. Like I get chills right now just thinking about it because it was so unbelievable. I was like, I can't believe this. I did it. Okay, so then I Googled number one hospital in the country because I was like, if I'm gonna do this,
I love I love it. You're like,
I'm gonna
"I
be
am
the
gonna be in
best.
the number
Yes,
1 hospital." Yeah.
yes, and I it was, like, so ego-y. It was just like, "I'm
I
gonna be the
love it.
best. I'm gonna work at the best place." So I uprooted my whole life in Pennsylvania and moved to Baltimore, Maryland, because at the time, Johns Hopkins was the best hospital. I think it is for many years, but I think it doesn't matter. At the time, that was the best hospital. I don't know if it still is. But, and I wanted to be an ICU nurse, which is a critical care nurse, opposite of hospice, and I was going to go back to school for anesthesia after a couple years. I had a whole plan. Then I actually started nursing, and then I was like in for a rude awakening because it was really hard, really scary, and I loved it, but it was just like so much harder and scarier than I ever imagined. And So the whole idea of like doing anesthesia school and stuff after 2 years was like out the door, because still 2 years in, I was
Mhm.
like, what am I doing? I don't know what's going. I still felt like a new, very, very new nurse. So it was like, I'm not going back to school yet. Are you kidding me? And thank God, because then probably around year 3 or 4, I started being like, this is not what I want to be doing. Like, I don't know what's happening here. I don't know what I was expecting, but like, people are dying, not all the time. Sometimes we are doing wonderful things, but like, we're keeping people alive at all costs. Like, we're not really talking to the families about the fact that they're going to die. Like, people are, and this is crude, but it's real. People are literally like rotting away in bed, and we are allowing this to happen because we are so afraid to say that someone's dying. And I don't know if we're consciously afraid, like, we're not purposely being like, "Ha, ha, 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 ha," let's hurt people, we're just trying to
Yeah, it's
preserve
not
life at all
malicious.
costs.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not malicious, and a lot of times doctors give this hope, but sometimes it's detrimental to the patient and to the families to get kind of this false even, you know, hope
Yes, we
that
need to get
something.
better
Yeah.
about that, and that's what I thought. I was like, "We need to get better at talking about death." And this one story is in my book, which I won't tell the whole story, but basically I had one patient where I was their nurse for like months and months and months every day. And this guy I knew was going to die, and we weren't talking about it. And I knew this man very well. I felt like I did because and his spouse, because I was their nurse for so long, and I finally was the one who spoke up during rounds that said like, I think we need to have a family meeting about like something like very vague, like about future plans, and because I didn't have the heart to be like about death. So, but everyone knew what I was talking about, and it was like I spoke about the elephant in the room. And instantly everyone agreed with me. Yes, 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 yes. We need to do this. And it all happened that day. We had a family meeting, my patient, who I love very much, died that night because the family heard the truth, and the family was like, no, we're not going to keep doing this then. And although it was so sad and devastating, because it did feel a little bit like at the time, like, oh God, he died because of me, which is not true. It also gave me a sense of like, oh, this is someone just needs to talk about it, and I can be that someone if I believe in this, right? So that got me into this whole death and dying thing eventually, and then eventually I still stayed in the ICU, even though I was very unhappy for like another probably 4 more years, just because it was what I knew. And then I eventually just took the plunge. And there's no rhyme or reason to why I suddenly did it. I think I was just like in enough pain in the ICU, meaning like I just didn't like my job anymore, that it finally put like pain pushes me to do things, right? So I
Yeah,
eventually
just
just
like
took the plunge and applied for a hospice job that said, it was a nursing job, and it said like must have hospice experience. I did not. And I just applied anyway, and I got the job. And then that started my nursing or my that started my hospice nursing journey.
hi, I just had to come on and just kind of interrupt right now this episode that you're hearing. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you guys are listening to this conversation. And every single time I hear a guest, there's something new that I learn and something else that ends up showing up within me that I realize I still have to work on. And if by chance, as you're listening to this conversation, you're feeling the same, that there's parts of you that are being stirred up and you are navigating a life transition right now that feels just heavy and stressful and just layered with grief, I want you to know that you do not have to do it alone. I invite you to connect with me for a free 15-minute discovery call, and we'll explore what's coming up for you and see if working together feels like the right fit. Just check the show notes below for my email and reach out for details. I'd really love to support you in integrating these transitions with more ease and clarity. Can't wait to hear back from you. Okay, let's keep on listening to the episode. Okay, so you you start then this journey as a hospice nurse, and you are now bringing this element of peace, of truth, of, um, of hope in a different way, because it's not the hope that someone's going to get better, but it's the hope that they can die in a peaceful way. So you are having these conversations. How did that energy of you inputting it into hospice care completely shift all these relationships? And you experienced it then with this patient in the ICU that first time that you went through that and he died. So how did that start kind of evolving every time that you would bring up this conversation about death
In ICU or with hospice?
with hospice?
So with hospice, I felt like everyone was teaching me because I did not know
Mm.
what I was doing. I did not know what I was doing. And because I was an experienced nurse already, that's why they say like must have hospice experience because they're not really teaching you stuff. Right? So of course I had a nurse that I followed around for the first maybe 3 months of being a hospice nurse. But it's very much learn on the job as far as like how to talk to people, what to say, what not to say, like how to, and really my patients taught me that first year. I could not believe what I witnessed that first year of being a hospice nurse, like how little we had to do for the body to be okay while dying, and seeing a natural death. Even though they're dying from something, they're still naturally dying, meaning like they're letting the body take over and like do its thing, versus an ICU death was like mind blowing. It is so different. It is so different, and I don't think you know that even as a healthcare worker unless you are in hospice, because I saw many people die, but in the hospital, being, machines being taken away and medication being taken away. So then they still die peacefully, but it's still different. They look different. It is different. So when I saw that the first year, I saw so many things that I was just amazed by, that our bodies are so amazing. And I had a great doctor that I worked with, and we all worked with at this hospice company, who we would follow her around every once in a while to go to her appointments and listen to her talk to the patients. And the things that she said, she was so good at explaining death and dying, and asking open-ended questions so they'd start talking. And I just sort of absorbed what she was saying like a sponge, and I started taking what she said and I started saying it, right? So it was a big learning curve that first couple years. Um, and I just really grew to love it. I mean, I really, if you are unhappy in your nursing career, if any nurses are listening to this, please try other areas, because I thought for the longest time that it was just me and I just didn't like nursing. And that's not true. I love what I do now. And it's because I found where I can really thrive. And there's so many things you could do with a nursing degree. So if you don't like where you are, move around, because I'm so grateful I did, because now I love what I do.
I love that you're sharing that. Yeah, a lot of times it's not the what you do, is the where you are. And right, it's that also has an impact. So I want to hear from you. What was your own perception of death prior to learning from your patients and going through this? And how did that completely shift? Because of course now you wrote a book and now a journal of how to be able to start preparing and having these conversations with somebody that's dying, but also these questions that we should be starting to ask ourselves, because that's something we all know we're going to have. Just the timing is what really is the only difference between someone that's already at hospice and us, right? We don't know the the
Mhm.
when.
Right, right, right.
So how
Yeah.
did that shift? Yeah, how did that shift? Did anything, or had you always had a peaceful relationship with death?
I wouldn't say I've always had a peaceful relationship with death. I either wasn't thinking about it, or I thought of it more as like a grief thing, because oddly enough, I had many when I was young, in my teens, I had many people very close to me die tragically. So my best friend died at 17. I had another very close friend die tragically, and then an ex-boyfriend died like there was like a lot of like I've experienced a lot of grief and like sudden tragic death. So I wasn't a nurse yet. I was a young person just feeling those things kind of, right? It's very hard when you're that age to be like, what's happening? People die? Okay. So I learned at a young age, people die. And people can die suddenly. Your life can change in an instant. I learned that. So that shaped me for a long time of like, and it wasn't like at all had anything to do with nursing, just more about grief and life and really that like how your life can change so suddenly. Um, but again, it's also a great teacher. I've always been a seeker, so I've always felt connected to something that I can't quite explain, that I think has to do with where we go when we die. To me, I think um, when we die, we go to a place that feels more like home than here ever really could. Now I don't preach that because like that's just my belief, and I don't, and people don't need to believe what I believe, and I don't think you need to believe that to go back to your home. Like I don't think it's a thing that you need to like get into. I think it's a place we come from. So I've always kind of felt that for whatever reason, right? I don't know why. I didn't grow up in a particularly religious home or anything, but my job as a hospice nurse has definitely helped me validate those things. Like, the more I watch people die, the more I think what I believe is true. But again, that's a very personal journey, and I would never try to get anyone else to see that because I think it's a personal thing. So I'm comforted by it, but I also like
Mhm.
know that people have to have their own journey.
I I love what you're sharing because I think that it is important to still share what we believe, whether it is something that somebody else, if it's going to bring some hope to somebody else or not. But everybody's journey is unique. But the fact that finding something that we can hold on to and believe that gives us some sense of peace, whatever that is, I think does help in that
Yes.
process of dying, right?
And I think, yes, I think so too. But I also think like the times I have felt most sure that there is something after this, or there is something that like is guiding me and loving me and supporting me, is in those depths of despair.
Mm.
Like that is
Mm.
when I've been seen. That's when I've seen that the most, where it's like suddenly I feel a presence of like, I'm going to be okay. Don't worry. This is, you're going to be okay. I've got you. That is and it's because I've allowed myself to feel like the desperation and the pain of life sometimes. Um, and I do think believing in something can help you die more peacefully, but you don't have to. I've seen plenty of atheists die very peaceful deaths, very, very peaceful deaths. And I've seen plenty of people with very strict religions not die peaceful deaths. So I think it
Mhm.
helps to have faith in something, even if it's like your loved
I go
one
back to
or the
yes,
ocean or something, just faith.
correct.
But generally speaking, you don't have to. You don't have
Right.
to.
Yeah, no, I interviewed somebody that was atheist, and for her, like, it was not even that something it was she was science-based, and for her, the fact that the the body was gonna go back and kind of contribute to whatever was gonna happen in the soil and this that itself was hope. So it doesn't have to be a spiritual belief in any way, but something that just brings you some kind of peace, whatever that is. Whether you live in the memories of those that are left behind, whether whatever legacy that you left is, by your actions, whatever, it can help. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Now, let's go into how it is that nurse Julie all of a sudden became a TikToker. So, share the story with your nieces. I saw your little thing of how it was that it started.
I know it's really is crazy, and it shows to me shows how like I didn't plan any of this truly. I mean, when I would tell people at dinner parties that I was a hospice nurse, like you don't get many follow-up questions after that. They're kind of like, "Cool. See you later." Like, anyway, turn around, talk to somebody else. Like they don't want to talk to you about death and dying. They don't want to talk to you. So, I never really thought about how people might like to watch videos about it. However, after, a few years of being a hospice nurse, a couple of my very good friends' parents were dying. And I was like telling them the things that I know, right? And they were asking me questions, and I was just sort of rattling things off like I normally would, like any day at my job. And they were like, "How have we known you for years? And I never knew that like you knew this stuff and that you like do this." I knew you were a hospice nurse, but I just didn't know what that meant, right? So they started being like, "You need to tell people this. You need to start a podcast. You need to do something." Right. And I was like, "Yeah, I would love to, but like, I don't know how to do that. And I don't know. I don't want to put in the work. And like, I don't know. I don't know. Right. I'm 42. I'm 42 now. I was probably like 39 then or something. Old enough to be like, I don't know. I never even heard of TikTok. Right. At the time. But then I went home to see my nieces. I hadn't seen them for like a year and a half because COVID. And when I went back, they were on TikTok all the time and doing dances, and like they were teaching me how to do dances on TikTok. And I thought it was like so funny and like kind of like, oh, TikTok, this is so stupid, you know? But I got on it because they were making videos of us and I wanted to like watch their TikTok videos. And then when I was watching TikTok, it's very easy to get addicted. PS. So I don't know if you should start if you don't. If you don't already watch TikTok, even though I'm on it, I don't know if you should go on it because it is addicting. Totally.
You could go on
And
Instagram, you could go
yeah,
but,
I'm on
yeah,
Instagram, on
yeah,
YouTube. If you
yeah,
wanna watch
yeah,
my
yeah.
stuff, like, yeah. But when I was on it, I was like, "Oh my god, this is, like, kind of great." And there's a bunch of people my age, like, talking about, like, space and, like, gardening and cooking and things that I really like. So I was like, "You know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna make a few videos, and I'm gonna start a TikTok." And I'm telling you, I didn't even try. I had like 5 videos I wanted to make. The lighting is bad. It's dark in my room. I just put up the camera and was like, "Hey, ba 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 ba." And the 4th video in, I think, went viral. And overnight, I had 10,000 followers. In a month, I had 100,000. In a year, I had 1,000,000. And I got a book deal. I mean, it just happened. It literally felt like it just happened. And then
Organically,
how
orga
yes. Because then and
organically.
then on the other platforms, because I have 1.3 million on Facebook, I have almost a 500,000 on Instagram, I have almost 600,000 on YouTube. That stuff also happened organically. Like one person shared a video of mine, like one like famous person, right, shared a video of mine on their Instagram. I got 20,000 followers on Instagram overnight, right? So it's like truly feels like it just happened. Like I think people were more ready to talk about this than we knew, and I think maybe the screen kind of gives you like it doesn't feel as real, maybe, because like I said, at dinner parties, like face to face with me, people are not like wanting to talk about it. But maybe the screen makes it a little less personal. I don't know. I don't
But
know.
I think also, Julie, we gotta add, it's not just the topic you're talking about, it's your charisma. You're coming in with the charisma and the love and this joy as well. So it's
Oh,
not
thank you.
only the topic, it's the who you are. People are connecting to you because then it's not only like, oh, hospice. It's like, like it's not like you're like a mortician. Even a mortician can come on and talk about it and be joyful. And you'd be like, but you put makeup on somebody that's dead. Like,
Yeah.
so but, so it's that. It is who you are that people are connecting. It's not just the topic. So, yes, you're right. People maybe wanna feel more comfortable over a screen, but people are connecting with you. I mean, I can feel that love that you have and passion that you have for what it is you do and the
Oh,
love,
thank
and I can say this from having had a hospice nurse when my mom died that was dying. I love Alexa if she's here. And I hope you don't have an Alexa near you that suddenly starts talking. But Alexa Hudson was my mom's first hospice nurse. We ended up having to, she moved out of state when she died, but it was just the most loving. She was the most loving person and made us feel so at ease with what was going to be happening and so loving. And I can just know that that is how patients and the family feel around you. So you probably have more of a part of even their own peaceful dying experience than you even think that you do
Well,
just
I
because
hope so.
of your own
Thank you.
energy. Yeah,
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
you just have a beautiful energy.
Well, if you talk about like, I mean, I really think people will ask me like, well, because people will now want to know like, how do you do it? Like, as far as like, how do you get a
Yeah.
bunch of followers? And I'm like, first off, I have no idea because it just happened. And second off, I think it might have happened because I really love what I'm talking about. I
Yes.
love what I'm talking about. I believe in it so much and I don't take myself too seriously. Never am I ever like, I mean, it's easy to get into your head about like views and this video did good and that video did bad, right? And like, what can I say to get the views? I can get
Mm,
like that. I'm human. But I have to always bring it back to, no, girl, that is not what you're doing this for. And there are some videos that I know are only going to be for a few set people because it's
mhm.
so niche, it's so specific. But I will do it because it's like, but this is important and people need to hear this little tiny tidbit of thing. So it's like, I think if you get on the internet and talk about what you love,
Yes.
it shows. It shows.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's a passion behind that. And like you said, it's not about always the number. The number is amazing because that means that people are resharing and that it's a topic that people want to learn more about. But it's even the fact that even if two people saw it, those two people that saw that video or read that post, their lives have been forever changed because of that information. So,
Yeah.
and that's a huge ripple effect that it has in life. So here we are in this journey. You're TikTok, you get a book deal, you write your first book. How was that experience? And then now with the accompanying journal now to go alongside with it. Tell us about that.
I mean, I was resistant to the book idea. I gotta tell you, because I'm a reader. I'm actually a reader now. I go through phases where like I read a lot, then I don't read it all, then I read a lot. But back then I was like, I don't even want to read my book. Why would I write one? No one's, I don't even want to do it. Um, but then my friends always help me because they're like, Julie, not people like to read. There are people who will only want to read. There's people who don't want to go on TikTok. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh yeah,
Yes, it's
okay,
different
yeah,
tools for different people. Yeah,
yeah,
different.
yeah, yeah,
By
yeah.
the way, you've got the best friends that are cheering for you because that is an amazing group of support right there. People that are cheering for you, want to see you succeed. So,
I
cheers
know,
to your
they're
friends
so
here as well.
wonderful. They're so wonderful. I put them on my grateful list every day, literally every single day. Um, but yeah, so what's what made me agree to it. And then, I mean, I mean, I can't stress enough about how this whole thing is just so crazy to me because then I get like a really big book deal, like, which makes me feel almost embarrassed because I'm like, I know there's people who are real authors who like want book deals, right? And then there's me who's like, I don't even know if I want to write a book, and I get to. And not only do I get to, I'm with a large publishing company, and that's like blows my mind. It's amazing. I'm so grateful every day, right? So long story short, it was much harder than I thought. Took a lot of work. It's hard. It is hard to write a book. Even when you have a lot of people helping you, it's still like I can't tell you like how it started to how it ended is like so different. Like there's so many changes, there's so many people working on it. It's crazy. So when you finally like it feels like you're birthing this thing like here public, please, I hope you like this, it feels like your little baby. It's so intimate, it's so scary. Um and I have the best followers alive because I wrote this book. It became a New York Times best-selling book thanks to my followers. Really, it's like my followers supported me, and then thankfully I think because it is a helpful book, it kept selling, right? I mean, which I'm so grateful about because I want people to learn about death and dying, and that's what the book is about. It's an educational book, and then I put stories intertwined so it didn't feel totally like a textbook. But what I really wanted was a real resource. Like, you don't have to read this whole book cover to cover. I know you're stressed out and you don't have time and you don't care about my stories right now. You care about how to help your loved one who's dying. So there's like an index in the back where you can like look up specific words to find like where those are in the book so you can just use it as a resource, because that's what I want for people is like to really have it be helpful. And then because it sold well, I love journaling. I'm a big journaler. I think it really helps me process how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. It gets the truth out of me. So when my publishing company was like, "Do you wanna do, like, a journal/workbook slash workbook to go along with the book?" I'm like, "Oh, yes.
I'm game. You're
Yes.
like, I'm game.
Yes." Like, I know it's not for everybody, but, like, I would read a book like my book and be like, "Okay, well, now what? Now what do I have to do?"
Yes.
So, that's where the journal comes in. The journal comes in with, like, how to actually prepare, like, literally step by step what to do, the existential questions, the fear around death, why, what has been your experience with death, what was it
Mhm.
like for you, all those things to explore, which girl, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
And a lot of times too, I love that question that you said, like, what was has been your experience or what are your beliefs? Because a lot of times when we think back of why it is we even believe what we believe now, then we think back, it was like, oh, wait, that's something that happened when I was 5. So in my
yes.
5-year-old's mind, that got stuck there. And then now I think that everything's like that. And then when you realize that, and you only realize that when you're journaling, and this happens for almost anything. You get stuck in your childlike mind of perception of whatever happened, and then you're like, as an adult, we're like, "Wait a minute,
Where
that's
did that
not what it
belief
really
come
is."
from? Yeah, where
Yes.
you'll think back and you'll be like, "Well, one time my grandpa said that everyone who," just something that, and it sticks in your
Yes.
brain, and then you just
Uh-huh.
have that. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that's
and
the
when you
kind of stuff I
uncover that,
love. Like,
yeah, and then
I
when
love
you uncover that,
uncovering it.
yeah, and when you uncover it, then you can reshift it and reprogram it, and then have a whole different relationship with whatever that belief was before. So that is awesome. I love that. And now, who is this book for? Is it only for the family, the book and the journal, for the family, or also for those who are already faced with death?
So, my general, statement to that is always, it's literally for everyone and
Everybody.
anyone, because we are all going to die, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, not in a scary, depressing way, but in like a, I'm telling you right now from my
Matter of fact.
experience, the
Yeah.
more you talk about this, the less fear you're going to have, the better you will live, and the more peaceful you will die, period.
Yes.
Okay, so it's for everybody. And then with a like, so that's one. But two, it's definitely for people who have been diagnosed with something terminal or life limiting. It's definitely for people who are already caring for their loved one who may be dying or just getting older or whatever, right? Just chronically sick, something like that. If you've already had someone die and you have a lot of, maybe it was wonderful, but maybe there's a little traumatic for whatever reason. I've had so many people write to me saying, I've carried around my mother's death for 10 years. I watched this video or I read this part of your book and like it explained everything and it's helped me, right? So even if it was in your past, I've heard people say that it's helped. So I think it's for everybody, but specifically if you have stuff, quote unquote stuff, around death, or you've had a bad experience around it, or you're a nurse that wants to get into hospice, this book is definitely for you. Definitely. Yeah.
That's awesome. And how can people best find it? What would be your preference of where people go and shop for it? We know that you can go on Amazon or anything, but what would be your preference of where people shop
I
for it?
honestly don't have a preference. I don't have a
Okay,
preference.
perfect.
I think it's
Wherever you want.
easiest, yeah, wherever you want. If you, I have always have a hard time remembering titles of things, even if someone tells me
Mhm.
like 50 times. So I would just say you can go to hospicenursejulie.com, and then there's all the listings, but it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't affect me either way where you get it. So wherever you get your books, it'll
Then
be
go
around.
there.
Yeah.
Perfect, and the link will be in the show notes. Julie, I always like to ask my guests if there's something else you'd like to share with the listeners that I have not asked you yet.
I think there was one part of the interview where I thought, "Oh, I wanna," like, when you were talking, I was thinking, "Oh, I wanna say this," and then I forgot, of course. But there's one thing that I love to say about the whole, like, faith around dying, right? We were talking about like having faith about something, or if you're atheist and don't have faith, like how can you still find comfort, yada, yada, right? I've had many experiences that felt spiritual, right? Or supernatural even as a hospice nurse that has helped me be like, whoa, there is something else going on here, right? But that is not the number one thing that makes me not afraid of death. The number one thing that makes me not afraid of death, and don't get me wrong, I'm still human. I will still have intermittent fear around death because I'm human, right? But generally speaking, I am not afraid because of the biology of death, the biology of our bodies, how our bodies work, how our body helps us die. It shuts off the hunger and thirst mechanism purposely because it's helping us prepare. It increases our calcium levels and makes us really tired because it's like helping us kind of cocoon into the next life, whatever that may be, right? And to me, when I first started hospice nursing, that is the most comforting thing. Whether and I don't know what happens after, right? Because I won't know until I have a belief, but I won't know for sure. But the fact that my body will help me do it is a miracle in itself. I just think that's insane that our bodies do that for us. And that is what is the number one thing that keeps me from, or that helps me not feel so afraid. Because I've seen it happen so many times and I trust that my body knows what it's doing.
Love that. It just makes me think of even birthing or just like
Yes,
it's like the fact that we are able to have a child be born into this world and that the child itself also
can do
physiology
it.
physically starts preparing to know what it is it's about. It's just amazing. And in that same way, we transition into whatever is next, but our body will take care of that process. Thank you, Julie, so much. Again, this was Julie McFadden, hospice nurse Julie. For you all, make sure to check her out on her website, check out her book, and that way you can learn everything you need to learn about how to prepare for death. Thank you again, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you again so much for choosing to listen today. I hope that you can take away a few nuggets from today's episode that can bring you comfort in your times of grief. If so, it would mean so much to me if you would rate and comment on this episode. And if you feel inspired in some way to share it with someone who may need to hear this, please do so. Also, if you or someone you know has a story of grief and gratitude that should be shared so that others can be inspired as well, please reach out to me. And thanks once again for tuning in to Grief, Gratitude, and the Gray in Between podcast. Have a beautiful day.